Come with me as we make all of these fabulous goodies today. Hi everybody, Elizabeth here from Petals and Parchment. Welcome to my channel. Thank you for joining me today. Today we are working some more in our springtime Reverie journals, and this is the third installment of Build a Journal with Me. We are working on our Do-Si-Do journals. In the previous video we constructed the journal and added signatures, and we've also added some pockets to the journal. I'm going to show you a couple things that you can add to the insides of your journal. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I wanted to show you is a snippet roll. So this is a snippet roll. If you've never seen one before, it's a long continuous piece of paper or fabric that you add scraps of paper and fabric to and little decorations. It's sort of like one long cluster, and then you can sew it if you'd like to. And I've gone ahead and backed mine with fabric as well. And then you can keep it as one intact piece of artwork, or you can cut off little snips of it and use it as a pre-made cluster. You can use it as a base and continue decorating on top of it. You could use it as a pocket on the page and stick something behind it. So they're really quite versatile and very lovely and super easy to make. So let's go ahead and get started and make one. Okay, so the things that you'll need to make your snippet roll. I really love anytime I see like a printer tape from one of those old adding machines at a thrift store. I go ahead and pick it up. You can usually get this for like $1 or so at a thrift store. Sometimes if you're really lucky, you'll find like a 3-pack or a 6-pack. And I'll usually just pick those up, and then you can tear off any, length that you want it to be. So I've got this length here that we're going to complete together today. And if you don't have one of those, that's totally fine. You can just take a couple of strips of paper and then glue them together so that they overlap a little bit, and then glue as many of those together as you want to create one long strip. So you're welcome to do that as well. And then you're just going to need some various fabrics in the color scheme that you're using, and a bunch of your paper scraps. And then a surprise for the people who are in my membership, I'm going to be including these little tiny ephemera pieces for their bonus pages this week. And I've got all these cute little matching bits of ephemera that go with the theme. The shabby chic kit that we're working on this month is Springtime Reverie, and this week the bonus pages for the members in the Petals and Parchment papery is these little snippet ephemera pieces. And I've also got some labels, and these work beautifully to create focal points on your snippet strips. So they're a really lovely addition to the kit just for members. So if you want to join the papery, then I'll put the information below in the description box. So let's get started. The funnest thing to do is to just rip your paper and start gluing it down, and try not to think about where you're putting it. Just have fun and don't think too much. I think if I start thinking too much, I'll just try to stop myself and get going again as quickly as possible. So it's actually the less you think about it, the better it comes out, in my opinion. So just start off by tearing paper and sticking it down. You actually don't have to worry about sticking it down very well if you're going to sew it, because the sewing machine will do a majority of the work for you. You don't have to get every single little corner if you don't want to. Of course, if you are not going to be sewing, then you'll want to stick down the paper a little bit better. But if you will be sewing, then just a little bit will be fine. I'm just trying not to cover that birdie up too much. And then if you go over the edge, that's fine. We're just gonna trim it off a little later. And as you can see, I'm just sticking it down pretty haphazardly, and it's quite fun and a great way to get rid of all those scraps that we end up with. that could easily overtake our whole craft room quite quickly. I've been working on organizing my space and downsizing and getting rid of supplies that no longer serve me or don't fit my style. I joined in the Paper Crafters Get Organized 3-day challenge last week. Was it last week or the week before? I can't remember, but Paper Crafters Get Organized is one of my favorite summits each year, and they didn't do a summit this year, they did a 3-day challenge. There's so much good information. The Facebook group is a plethora of information and good resources. Everybody's really encouraging to each other, super helpful. When you have a problem that you're getting stuck on, they'll try to help you with solutions that worked for them. It's just a wonderful community, and I've actually made some breakthroughs in my space this week. For the first time in a while, I've been feeling rather overwhelmed and stuck for quite some time, and it's finally bit by bit getting under control. So that's exciting. So that's what I've been up to this week, trying to manage all the things I've got going on in life and in the art world. So as you can see, I just keep sticking these down, and then once you get this far, you'll just kind of take a step back and see if there's like a color missing somewhere. You can fill it in, just make it like visually appealing to you. So I think I need a little bit more of this dark color, and I think that looks pretty good. So then the next step that I like to do is trim off the excess. So I'll just turn it around, and here we've got more scraps going back into the scrap pile. If they're too small or wonky, you can just throw them away. And we're going to add some focal points and some fabric bits and lace bits to it now. Okay, so I cleaned up all the paper scraps, and now I've got my fabric scraps down and my little ephemera pieces separated out here. And so the next step, I'm just going to stick down the fabric and the lace scraps in the same fashion that I just did the paper, but do it on top, obviously. And that's just a little bit more deliberate than the paper, but still just kind of letting go and having fun. Again, if you are going to sew, then you don't have to worry about gluing too much, but if you're not going to sew, then you'll want to make sure to glue your pieces down a little bit more. But if you're going to sew, you don't have to use so much glue, because the different layers of sewing will definitely stick these down more, and you don't want to gunk up your sewing machine too much with a bunch of glue. Okay, and then I just kind of alternate between doing fabric and ephemera pieces. So then once I do some fabric, I'll go in and add the ephemera and then see how it looks, and then go back and add more where there's any gaps that need filled in. And I'm just kind of trying to spread everything out evenly throughout the little canvas here. If you're doing a long snippet roll like the one I showed you in the beginning, you'll have a lot more room to work with. And then now that I've got all my little pieces stuck down, I'll just look and see if there's any little spots that I want to fill in for the last minute, and then the final step will be to sew it. Okay, so this is what I have so far, and the next step is going to be to let it dry, depending on how much glue you put on, and then run it through the sewing machine if that's your preference. If you don't want to sew it, then you could also add faux stitching around the edge by just taking a white or black pen and making little stitches all the way around the border if you'd like. So I'm not going to show you how to sew it, but there's basically 4 lines, so I've just gone straight down 4 times to try to catch everything, and I did a zigzag stitch. As you can see here, there's 4 lines, and then I backed it with the plain fabric, and then I went around the perimeter with a regular stitch. So it was actually passed through 6 times, as you can see right here. So that is one thing that you can do in your journal, is a snippet roll. They turn out so pretty. And I actually learned to make these from Lillian Guerrero. I'll link her video down below. She's the one who I learned this method from the easiest. Lots of people do really beautiful snippet rolls. I know Twisted Paper Studio does a really gorgeous one as well. And then you can just roll it up like this, tie it with a pretty ribbon, and then snip off pieces of it for your project as you need it, or like I said, keep it as a beautiful work of art. Now we're going to move on to the next idea, the scrappy notebooks. So these are the ones that I have so far. These are super easy to put together, and they're just little notebooks that go in pockets throughout the journal, and you just decorate each one a little bit differently. And this is also a great way to use up all your scraps from the projects in your journals. These are actually really great to do at the end towards the end of your journal, if you have a lot of scraps left over, or you can make them as you go and just clean up your scraps with them. But they're so beautiful, and then you can even do stamping on the blank pages that I've done here, and it's a really good way to use up scraps. And I've got a sticker here that matches. I used some tissue paper and a fussy cut. Here's another one. I just used some sari silk to decorate, and then a piece of washi tape that matches my theme of cherry blossoms. So you'll see just how easy it is to put these little beauties together, and you can make so many very quickly. So anytime that I have an offcut of a piece of paper, even if it's just plain printer paper, I'll save it and then I'll coffee dye it, like a bunch of these little scraps like this, which I really love. So then I'll just stack them all together and try to stagger them so that they're visually appealing, like so. Different lengths is fine and dandy. You can line them up in the center, or you can put them all to one side like so, and then just make sure that they all line up at the top and staple it together. Then you simply take a piece of scrap paper and fold it in half and burnish it, and then you glue it over the top of the staple. Trim off any excess here, and then decorate. It's that simple. You can put fabric or doily or decorative paper under this cover here. Let's see here. What do we want to do on this one? My journal is going to be a gator mouth, so everything that I'm doing right now is to add interest to my journal without adding too much bulk. I'm going to just clip these while I look through my supplies to find out what decorations I want. And I think what I'm gonna do is just make a little button decoration on this one this time. And you could, if you want, sew the button through the fabric and make a little cluster, but I think for simplicity's sake I'm just going to glue everything down. I'll use Fabri-Tac for that. And one of my amazing viewers has solved my dilemma for me. I was always dealing with this crazy volcano of Fabri-Tac coming out and just squirting everywhere when I was trying to put it away, and she informed me that the trick is to just turn it upside down and let all the glue come into the lid before you squeeze it, and then it won't volcano on you anymore. So thank you so much for sharing that tip with me. I cannot tell you how much frustration I've dealt with over the years. This is my glue of choice for just about everything, and I would get the volcano about 1 out of every 2 or 3 times working with it. So knowing that there was a trick to it has just saved me so much frustration. So if you ever have a tip like that you see, definitely leave it, and I do read those and respond to them. And I'm so grateful to that viewer. Thank you so much for sharing that. So look how cute. This little notepad here will go a step further maybe and add some stamps. I have these bird stamps that I think would go really well with it. So let's see. I think this bird will fit really nicely. Okay, and we're just gonna stamp this little birdie on the front here. Uh-oh, the button got in the way. Guess what? We're gonna tear that right off and you won't even miss it. I'll need a smaller stamp. That's too bad. That would have been really pretty. Okay, I'm gonna try this again with a different stamp and a different platform to see if we can just get a bird way down low here. Pretty much no matter what happens in paper crafting, if you make a mistake, you can fix it, which is one of the things I love about it so much, because I make a lot of mistakes. Okay, so there's a little birdie. I liked the other one better, but you can always stamp it before you assemble it, or put the button on after you do the stamping, which would be better, but it's still pretty cute. Okay, so those are the cute little scrappy notebooks. And then another idea I have for you is to create a masterboard with your scraps. And so all I did was take some leftover manila folder that I had that was waste, and I just covered it with all my scraps. And then what you can do is you can trace a pocket or an envelope. You can trace a journaling card, or you can just simply cut it in thirds. Or, I mean, it depends on what size your manila folder is. You can cut it whatever size you want, and then round the corners and make some journaling cards, and then you have a really nice background. You can make tags with it. So this is what they mean when they're talking about a masterboard. That's just a piece of paper or cardstock or file folder that you then glue all your scraps to in a pretty collage, and then you turn it into tags, journaling cards, pockets, and it's all nice and matching for your journal. Another idea that I wanted to show you is if you have a great deal of scrapbook paper, you can add that to your journal as well. So I've just used a die cutting machine that I have to make tickets and tags using all the scraps from my scrapbook paper, and I picked all the ones that would match the printables. So I'm using up stuff in my stash and adding pretty colors to my journal, and that's a win-win in my book. And then using my die cut machine, I also have embossing folders. So in one of my other series, the Reflective Rolodex, I did a background page with some gouache and on some watercolor paper, and then what I did was I ran that through the embossing machine, so I got this really pretty pattern on the paper, and then I glued that to coaster. This is a super thin coaster. You could also cut out a piece of cardstock with like a scalloped edge if you have die cuts or a large scalloped punch. You could also use a different shape if you have some coasters. I picked up this humongous package of these really thin coasters at a garage sale. It was like a craft sale, and I was like, I could really use these, and this is the first one that I've used, and so I'm really pleased with how it came out. This will just slip into a pocket in my journal, and then someone can write on the back of it, and it's really beautiful because I made the paper myself, and then I embossed it, and then I glued it to this, so it's just really 100% homemade and a piece of art that no one else will have. I can also put some more like little fabric bits and a focal point on top if I wanted, so that's another thing. You know, use what you have. If you just have a circle, use a circle. If you have a square, use a square. You can use really thin cardboard like a cereal box and cover it with the paper. So that's just an idea for you. And the next thing that I wanted to show you, I actually learned from Sophie at Sophie's Crafty Corner, which are these awesome little corner page tucks. I'll show you here in my journal. These are so awesome. They go on any page that you want, and then you can tuck something up inside of them like this, and it works on both sides like so. I love these so much. This was actually my first time making one, this one right here, so I'm gonna show you what she showed me. These little corner page tucks, they're so simple and so beautiful, and they don't add a lot of bulk, but they add so much interest. I just love these so much. So let me show you how she does it. So you just start out with a square. So I just did 3 by 3, but you could do 4 by 4 or 5 by 5. I wouldn't go much bigger than that. And then you just fold it in half, and then on this half you fold it kind of like you would a paper football, and then we're just going to glue right here and fold this together like so. and press that down, and then you're just going to cut these extra pieces off right here very carefully. Don't cut the paper, just cut the excess off. So that's what you end up with, is just a triangle here. And then the last bit, we're just going to take a sliver off of the bottom like so, and that's like that, and then you just decorate it, and that's your corner tuck. So in order to get the layers here, what I did was I saved one of the offcut triangles just to sort of have a measurement, and then using a book page, I just cut out a triangle ever so slightly bigger than the triangle that I cut off there. So now I have just a triangle of book page here, and then I'm going to check it and make sure that I can still see my pretty paper behind it, and make sure I don't have any words that I don't want to see. So I'm just going to trim it a little bit more, and you can ink around the edge of this first. So that's a good size, I think. And I put some cheesecloth behind this book page. I always have cheesecloth handy. So I'll just put some glue on the book page, and you can ink if you'd like. And I'm going to put the cheesecloth down first, and then put the book page on top of that, like so. And then I'm going to take a fussy cut. I think I spent them all on my Snippet Roll, so I'll just cut one off here. And see, we're already putting it to good use. Just gonna trim a tiny bit off there so that the entire thing fits on there, and glue that down. That looks really pretty. And just like that, we have a corner tuck. And in this particular instance, underneath the fussy cut, I used a piece of pink lace and a flat-backed pearl. And then on this side, I used a little piece of faux washi tape that came in the kit and a flower, and then I put a flat back gemstone on top of that one. So these are really beautiful and highly customizable additions to your journals, and they are scrap busting and scrap creating, but that's okay. You don't have to keep every scrap. Sophie taught me that too. It's okay to throw it away. You don't have to keep every single scrap. Thank you, Sophie, for all you teach us and share with us. So now you just get busy making all these beautiful elements for your journal, and then have fun adding them throughout the journal. And make sure to stagger them from front to back so that the placement is evenly spaced throughout the journal, and then just have so much fun filling it and personalizing it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.